What happens when the man who owns the restaurant chain walks in for dinner, and the staff don't know he's the one signing their paychecks? That question burned in Oliver Langston's mind as he drove up to store 13 of his late father's chain of family-style restaurants. 17 locations, spread across 4 states. His father built it from a single roadside diner. Oliver inherited it after his father passed 2 years ago. He hadn't stepped foot in this location before. Not once. He'd relied on reports, district manager summaries, and quarterly numbers. But lately, something felt off. Numbers were flat here, while other stores were climbing. Customer feedback was light, but not glowing. The district manager, Caleb, always claimed it was just a slow patch. Oliver didn't feel like hearing someone's filtered version anymore. So he drove out, ditched the suit, and went full disguise. Brown contacts, navy windbreaker, light stubble, a pair of cheap glasses, and a limp he practiced for days. He looked like a tired contractor from out of town. He booked a motel nearby and walked in just before the dinner rush. Alone. The hostess stand was empty. A couple stood waiting ahead of him, looking confused. A minute passed, then another. Finally, a tall man in his late 20s walked up. Clean-shaven, nice haircut, but his face carried a constant look of boredom. Name tag read Trent. "Yeah," Trent said. The couple ahead of Oliver stepped forward. The woman smiled. "Hi. Table for 3? Trent glanced behind them. A young girl, probably 7 or 8, stood in a faded pink hoodie, holding her mom's hand. Her shoes were old, scuffed. The dad's jacket was too thin for the weather. Trent's eyes flicked over them. He frowned. "Are you planning to dine in?" he asked slowly, like he didn't quite believe it. "Yes," the father answered, polite but firm. Trent exhaled. "We're full up. Might be a long wait," he said, even though Oliver could see at least 5 empty booths. The woman glanced around. "We're okay waiting. We're out of kids' menus," Trent added, then looked at the child. "You sure she's gonna be all right here?" Oliver's stomach turned. The father's jaw clenched. "We'll be fine. We just want a meal." Trent turned without another word and walked toward the back. Oliver cut in, stepping up behind the family. "Excuse me," he said to the couple. "I'm just one. If you'd rather go ahead, please." The man looked surprised. No, you go ahead." Trent returned with a ticket pad, ignoring the family completely. "You said one." Oliver nodded. "Booth or table?" Trent asked, tone flat. Oliver pointed to a booth near the window. As they walked, he whispered, "Hey, that family behind me. Why didn't you seat them?" Trent shrugged. "We're short-staffed. They didn't really look like they were gonna tip anyway." Oliver stared at him. "What does that have to do with anything?" Trent looked annoyed. "Dude, you work 12-hour shifts with back-to-back tables. You start learning who's worth your time. I'm not gonna waste a booth on people who order 1 burger to split 5 ways." Oliver sat down, forcing himself to stay calm. Trent handed him the menu. "I'll be back." Oliver watched him walk off straight past the family. They were still standing, looking uncertain. The dad rubbed his daughter's shoulder. The girl looked hungry. A server passed by, a short woman, maybe in her 40s. Her ponytail was messy, but her eyes were sharp. She saw the family, paused, and walked right over. "Hey there," she said kindly. "Someone help you yet?" They shook their heads. She smiled. "You hungry, sweetheart?" she asked the girl. The girl nodded shyly. "Come on," the woman said. "Booths open over here. You're welcome here." Oliver watched the family follow her. The girl's face lit up. The parents looked relieved. He flagged down the woman as she passed by his table again. "Thank you," he said, "for helping them." She paused, surprised. They just looked like they needed a meal. Happens more than you'd think lately. What's your name? He asked. Francis, she said. Been here 7 years. Oliver smiled. You're good at what you do. She gave him a tired smile. Thanks. I try. As she walked away, Oliver looked back at Trent. He was laughing with another server by the soda machine. Not a care in the world. Oliver opened his phone under the table, took a photo of the booth count, and typed out a note. He wasn't just angry. He was disappointed. Not only in the staff but in himself. He'd let this happen on his watch. That was about to change. Oliver stirred the ice in his water glass, watching the condensation bead down the side. The clinking gave him something to focus on while he listened. Booths filled slowly, the kitchen pass began to buzz with movement, and the low hum of conversation rolled through the dining room. But one thing stayed the same. Trent hadn't taken a single order since Oliver had been seated. Instead, he leaned against the counter near the dessert fridge, phone just out of sight behind a napkin holder, his fingers moving. A young server, maybe 19 or 20, approached him, visibly stiff. Hey, can you take table 9? I've got 3 going and the kitchen's backed up. Trent didn't look up. Nah, I'm cut after this hour. Not taking more. The kid hesitated. But they just sat down, and Danielle's still setting up her station. Trent finally looked at him. Then let him wait. Not my problem. Oliver glanced toward the table in question. An elderly couple sat patiently, menus untouched, hands folded. The man wore a veteran's cap. They clearly weren't in a rush, but that wasn't the point. Frances passed by again, balancing a tray with 3 plates. She stopped at Oliver's table. You ready to order? He nodded. What's your favorite thing here? She smiled with one side of her mouth, a new expression that hadn't been seen yet. Chicken and dumplings. Not the prettiest dish, but it's real food. I'll have that. She jotted it down. Want cornbread or a roll? Cornbread, please. She nodded, then lowered her voice. You doing all right? He met her eyes. Honestly? Just observing. She gave a nod that said she understood more than she let on. Let me know if you need anything. As she left, Oliver noticed another woman walking briskly from the kitchen. She had a pen tucked behind one ear and wore a black apron with a name badge clipped to the strap. Danielle, shift lead. She stopped in front of Trent. I just got out back, she said, voice tight. Why is table 9 still unserved? Trent didn't even bother with a full sentence. I'm cut. Danielle looked over the floor. Then why are you still on the clock? He shrugged. Waiting for my ride. Not my job if someone else can grab it. You're still clocked in. That means you're still responsible. Trent gave her a look that walked the line between smug and annoyed. You want me to take it? Or you want me to leave? Danielle didn't respond right away. Finally, she said, I'll handle it, and turned. Oliver leaned back in his booth. That was the second time Trent had refused a table. The second time someone else had to clean up after him. A door near the kitchen swung open and a different woman walked in, a server clearly just arriving. Her curls were still damp from a quick shower, and she was tying her apron as she approached Danielle. Sorry, she said. My bus was late. Danielle nodded. You're all right. Just jump in when you're ready. Table 12's yours. The new server looked toward it. Got it. As she walked away, Danielle rubbed her temples for a second, then moved on. Oliver's food arrived within 5 minutes, hot and carefully plated. Francis placed it down gently, refilled his water without asking, and checked on the family nearby. The girl was laughing at something her dad said. The woman had tears in her eyes, but she was smiling. Oliver took a bite. The dish had real flavor, clearly made with care. Whoever was in the kitchen knew what they were doing. He stood quietly after finishing and walked toward the restroom, which required passing near the kitchen. As he rounded the corner, he heard voices through the swinging door. "Where's the extra mashed prep? We're already dipping into tomorrow's batch. I told Caleb last week we needed a third cook on Fridays. He said it wasn't in the budget. He's never in here when the line's backed up. Of course he doesn't think we need it." Oliver pushed the door open slightly. The kitchen was clean, but tense. Two line cooks were moving fast, plating and prepping with barely a breath between tasks. One of them, a stocky man with a deep burn scar on his forearm, was working two pans at once. The other, a woman in her 30s, had a towel slung over one shoulder and was plating meatloaf with practiced precision. Neither of them noticed Oliver. They were too busy. He stepped back out before anyone saw him and returned to his booth. As he sat, Danielle approached. "Everything okay with your food?" "It was excellent," Oliver said. "Kitchen's doing good work." She seemed surprised by the compliment. "I'll let them know. They've been stretched thin." "Is it always like this on Fridays?" "Worse sometimes. Management doesn't schedule extra help?" Danielle hesitated. "We've asked. District says we need to tighten up labor hours." "Who's approving the schedules?" "Caleb. He sends them out every Monday." Oliver nodded slowly. Danielle shifted her weight slightly. "Is there anything else I can get you?" "No. Thank you." She walked off. Oliver stood and approached the register. The host stand was still empty, again. Trent was now sitting at a booth near the back, scrolling his phone, earbuds in. The elderly couple from earlier had just received their drinks brought by Danielle, not Trent. He stepped outside without paying. He'd already left cash under his empty plate. In the parking lot, he pulled out his phone and called his assistant. "Lisa," he said, "I need a full employment file on a server named Trent at Store 13. Also, I want to know how often Caleb visits this location and when he's due next." She paused. "Something wrong?" "Several things." He hung up and leaned against his car. The cold evening air bit into his neck, but he didn't care. Inside that building, there were people showing up every day and giving everything they had. And then there were people like Trent, people who thought no one was watching. But someone was. And tomorrow they'd know exactly who. Oliver arrived the next morning before the sun came up. The parking lot was nearly empty, except for two cars and an old Honda motorcycle with a cracked mirror. He parked a few spaces down and waited. He didn't need to be seen, yet not until it mattered. Inside, the prep lights flicked on one by one. A figure with a heavy walk and a faded beanie unlocked the back door and went in, carrying a plastic grocery bag looped around each wrist. 10 minutes later, a second employee arrived, a short man with a limp in his left leg, who carried 2 crates of produce in from his car without waiting for help. Oliver waited another 20 minutes before stepping out of his vehicle. He didn't wear the disguise this time. No glasses, no limp, just a plain blazer, pressed slacks, and leather shoes that hadn't touched a restaurant floor in years. He walked through the front entrance. The doorbell jingled faintly. One of the cooks from last night looked up from the kitchen window and froze. Oliver nodded once. "Good morning." The woman set her knife down and disappeared into the back. Moments later, Danielle stepped out from the office hallway, wearing the same black apron, but now with a clipboard tucked under one arm. She looked at him, really looked, and her jaw shifted. "Mr. Langston?" "Yes." She straightened. "We weren't told you were coming." "I know," he said. "Where's Trent?" Her lips parted slightly. "He's not scheduled today." "Then call him in." Her eyes flicked down to the clipboard. "He's listed as off." "Then tell him he has 10 minutes to get here or not to bother coming back at all." She didn't argue. She simply turned and walked into the office behind the host's stand. Oliver leaned on the counter and looked out at the empty dining room. It smelled clean, someone had mopped. The sunlight broke slowly across the booths, tracing over the same table where that family had stood the night before. Danielle returned. "He's on his way. Said he'll be here in 15. Good. Let's get all floor staff in 5 minutes early today. I'll pay the OT." She hesitated. "Every store?" "No. Just here. For now." She gave a small nod. "Yes, sir. And Danielle," he added, "tell Frances I want to speak with her when she arrives privately. She's already here. She's in the back folding linens." Oliver stepped through the dining room, past the kitchen gate, and into the rear corridor. He spotted Frances in the laundry nook, sleeves rolled up, folding napkins into neat triangles, her fingers moving automatically despite the fatigue in her posture. She looked up and froze. "You're not the guy from table 7, she said. "No," Oliver replied. "I'm the guy who owns this place." Frances blinked, then slowly set down the napkin she was holding. "Well, that explains a lot." Oliver stepped closer. "I'm not here to scare anyone. I'm here because of what I saw last night. You treated those people with decency and care when someone else made them feel beneath him." Frances folded her arms loosely. "I've got 2 kids. I know what it's like to stretch a meal." He nodded. "That's not something you should have to explain. That's what this place was built on. My father didn't start this business to turn away people who look tired." "I figured as much," she said. "I'm not here to hand out praise and leave," Oliver continued. "There are things happening here that don't align with what this company stands for. What I need is the truth, not the version that gets passed up the ladder." Frances studied him. "All right, you want it straight." "I do." She leaned against the folding table. "We've been short 2 servers for 3 months. We lost one when her mom got sick and another when her hours got cut. We were told not to replace them. Kitchen's been begging for a 3rd cook on weekends, but Caleb says the budget's tight. Danielle's been covering doubles twice a week just to keep us open." "Trent," she exhaled. "Trent clocks in, stands around, and cherry-picks tables that look like they'll tip. If he doesn't like how someone looks, he'll forget to seat them or claim we're full." "Do customers ever complain?" "They don't stay long enough to, or they don't want to make a scene. But yeah, it happens more than it should." Oliver's jaw tightened. "How long's he been like this?" "Since the holidays. Before that, he was just lazy. Now he's lazy and mean." "Why didn't anyone report him?" "We did. Danielle sent in 2 write-ups. Caleb never followed up. Said he'd talk to him next visit. That was last month." Oliver stepped back. "Thank you, Frances. I'm going to fix this." She gave a faint nod. "Appreciate it. Place could be great again." Oliver walked back out to the dining room just as the front door opened and Trent walked in, earbuds still hanging from his collar. He wore the same expression as last night, disinterested to the edge of disrespect. He stopped short when he saw Oliver standing near the host's stand. "Hey," Trent said, eyes narrowing slightly. "You're that guy from last night." "That's right." Trent squinted. "What are you like? Corporate?" "I'm the owner." Trent paused. His mouth opened, then closed again. Oliver didn't wait. "Let's go talk. Now." They stepped into the office. Oliver closed the door behind them. Trent sat down slowly, like he wasn't sure if this was a joke. "You've been here how long?" 2 years. "And in those 2 years, how many customers have you turned away because they didn't look like they'd tip?" Trent shifted. "Look, don't lie. I heard you. I saw it. You walked past a family and refused to seat them because of how they looked. Then you chose not to serve a table because you were cut. But you were still on the clock." Trent leaned back. "This is a restaurant. We're all hustling. You think I'm the only one who makes judgment calls?" "No. But you're the only one in this building who openly discriminates and refuses to work while clocked in." Trent scoffed. Discriminates? Come on. I was being smart. You think people like that leave good tips? They sit forever and leave $2. Oliver didn't flinch. They left $10 last night, on a $25 meal. Francis served them, and they left smiling. Trent shook his head, laughing dryly. So what? She gets a medal for being a saint? No, she gets a raise. You get fired. Trent's expression changed instantly. Whoa, hold up, fired? Immediately. You can't treat people like that. Not here. Not anywhere. Get your things and leave. You're no longer employed by Langston Family Restaurants. Trent stood up, eyes wide. This is insane. You're making a mistake. No, Oliver said quietly. The mistake was letting someone like you wear our name tag for this long. Trent stared at him, breathing hard, then stormed out of the office. A minute later, the front door snapped shut behind him. Oliver waited until the sound faded, then stepped out again. The kitchen was fully staffed now. Danielle was reviewing prep sheets with the cooks. Francis was helping a new server set up the salad station. He cleared his throat. Everyone turned. I'm Oliver Langston, he said. My father built this company with 3 things: hard work, respect, and community. Last night I saw disrespect. This morning, I'm making changes. No one spoke. Starting next week, this location will receive 2 additional hires: 1 server, 1 cook. Danielle will no longer be required to cover doubles. And Francis, he turned to her, is being promoted to assistant shift lead with a pay increase effective immediately. A flicker of surprise passed through her expression, but she nodded once. There will also be an anonymous reporting system implemented company-wide within 30 days, Oliver continued. If someone refuses to listen, I want to know. He looked around the room. You all deserve better support. It starts today. The room remained quiet, but the energy shifted. People returned to work, but with something steadier in their movements. Less exhaustion, more purpose. Oliver stepped outside, the cold morning air brushing against his face. This wasn't about catching one bad apple. It was about rebuilding trust, 1 booth, 1 shift, 1 promise kept at a time. 2 weeks later, Oliver returned, this time unannounced, but not undercover. He parked in the same spot, stepped out wearing a wool coat, and walked through the front doors of Store 13 just before the lunch rush. The difference struck him immediately. There was someone at the host stand, a young man in his early 20s with sleeves rolled neatly to his elbows and a genuine hello in his voice. Welcome in, he said. Party of 1? Not today. Just checking in. The host's brow furrowed slightly. Are you Mr. Langston? Oliver nodded once. The host straightened. Danielle's in the back helping expedite. Want me to grab her? No need. I'll walk through. He stepped onto the floor. The energy was sharper now, not faster or louder, just more focused. The servers moved with direction, not drag. Booths were half full already, but no one seemed strained. A new face, a young woman with a buzz cut and a notepad in hand, was greeting a table of 4 with practiced ease. She wasn't rushing, and no one looked like they were waiting too long for anything. As Oliver made his way toward the kitchen, he passed Francis. She was carrying a tray with 3 plates and a small bowl of soup balanced on her forearm. You're early, she said without slowing. Wanted to see how the lunch shift runs. She glanced at the clock. Then you'll get a show. Friday's our test. Oliver gestured toward the tray. That for 12. 9, she said. Couple of regulars. They asked for extra cornbread. I told them you'd approve. He gave a small laugh. I do. She moved on and he continued toward the pass line. Inside the kitchen, the cooks were mid-rhythm. The woman who'd been plating meatloaf during his first visit was now calling orders, wearing a headset and moving like she'd done this for years. There was another body at the prep station, a new hire, by the look of his black apron with no name badge yet. He listened carefully while chopping, his eyes flicking toward the lead cook with every instruction. Danielle stood near the pass, double-checking a ticket before sending it out. She spotted Oliver and joined him at the side door. "I didn't think you'd be back so soon," she said. "I wanted to see how things were holding." She nodded. "We've had fewer walkouts, table turnovers tighter, and we're finally getting through closing before 10. Training the new hires going all right? Better than expected. The young guy up front, Noel, he's sharp. Picks up floor flow fast. And the new cook's a quick study. They've both been showing up early." Oliver scanned the room. "How's Caleb been?" Danielle's jaw tightened, but not in the same way it had before. "He showed up Monday, asked a few questions, took notes. Didn't interfere." "Did he push back on the staffing changes?" "Not to me. But he didn't look pleased when he saw the new hire paperwork." Oliver stepped aside as a server passed with a tray. "I'll handle him," Oliver said. "No one here answers to indifference anymore." Danielle's shoulders eased. "Glad to hear it." They walked out together into the dining area. Francis was wiping down a booth while chatting briefly with a man in his 60s, who handed her a folded receipt and stood. She turned toward Oliver. "Can I steal you for a second?" he asked. She handed off the cloth to another server and followed him toward the office corridor. Inside the manager's office, Oliver closed the door behind them. He gestured toward the small desk where a stack of time cards sat beside a laminated cleaning checklist. "I wanted to make sure you heard it directly from me," Oliver said. "The assistant shift lead promotion official as of today." Francis blinked. "I thought that was already done." "It was. But now it's reflected in the corporate books. You'll be getting the new pay rate starting Monday, plus 1 scheduled admin day a week. No tables, just planning and oversight. I haven't done that kind of work before." "You've already been doing it. You just weren't paid for it." She looked at the desk, then back at him. "You're serious?" "Completely." Her voice dropped. "I didn't think anyone upstairs noticed people like me." "Then that's on us." She nodded slowly. "All right, I'll do it right." "I know." They stepped out just as the front door chimed again. A man entered, tall, mid-40s, Bluetooth still in one ear, eyes scanning like he was trying to locate a problem before it spoke. "Caleb." Oliver crossed the floor before anyone else could intercept him. "Afternoon," Oliver said, extending a hand. Caleb's mouth tightened before he shook it. "Didn't expect to see you here again so soon." "I imagine you didn't." Oliver gestured toward an empty booth near the window. "Got a few minutes?" Caleb hesitated, then followed him. They sat. Oliver waited for the silence to stretch before speaking. "I reviewed your last 3 months of regional reports." Caleb shifted. "All right." They were vague, repetitive, and in some cases misleading. "How so?" "You listed Store 13 as stable but low performance. You mentioned temporary morale issues and minor staffing gaps." "That's not what was happening here." Caleb's tone cooled. "I manage 6 locations. I can't be in every one every day." "You don't need to be. But when 2 write-ups for the same server go unaddressed and turnover spikes, that's not a time issue. That's a leadership issue. I prioritized the stores that were losing money. This one was losing people." Caleb leaned forward. "Are you saying I'm being replaced?" "I'm saying you're being re-evaluated. Starting today, you'll be shadowing at this location for 1 full week. No laptop, no reports, just observation and support." Caleb looked like he'd bit his tongue. Oliver leaned in slightly. "And if you can't do that, we'll find someone who can." A long pause settled between them. Finally, Caleb nodded once. "Understood." Oliver stood. "Good. He left him sitting there and walked back toward the kitchen. Behind the pass, the new cook was laughing at something the lead had said. Danielle was showing Noelle how to adjust the lunch rotation. Francis was reviewing a checklist with the younger server near the drink station. Oliver stepped back out into the dining room, letting it all settle in. The shift wasn't flawless. It wouldn't be. There were still gaps, still moments where someone had to cover twice the ground. But the weight had shifted. People had been seen. People had been heard. And the people who couldn't respect that weren't here anymore. Oliver didn't need to stay for the rest of the shift. He left quietly, not needing another speech. The work was in motion. The right people were in place. And from now on, no one at Store 13 would ever feel unseen again.